friends, welcome back. Professor Cat, wonderful wizard of math, here today to show you another way to find missing values when you're solving equations with percents in them. So let's say that and this is a real life problem if you ever want to solve it for a challenge. So let's say I have 3 wands and an unknown number of those wands are purple, but I tell you that the purple wands equal exactly 33.3 repeating percent of my wand collection. I bet you could solve for how many wands I have that are purple. More on that later. You're going to solve problems like that today using our teach point. Let's write it down that I can use, or I can write percent equations and isolate my variable, which today is going to be A, or the numerator, to solve for missing values. Moving on to example number 1. Let's see what our question is. 25% of the 32 guests are penguins. So here on our screen, we have 32 question marks representing all of our guests. This is our total guests. And we know that that's equal to 32. And we know that 25% of those are penguins. So we have to find out what number of penguins do we have attending our party. So again, the percent equation is the size of one whole group times the percent of the group that you have is equal to how many you have. Here we know that a whole group is equal to 32 guests. So we can replace whole group with 32. We also know that 25% of those guests are penguins. So we know that 25% of those guests are penguins. However, in the percent equation, we want to use percent as a decimal. So 25%, percent means parts out of 100, would be 25 out of 100, or 25 hundredths, written like this as a decimal. So if I multiply these two things together, I can solve for the number I have, the number of guests that are penguins. So in my Muggle calculating device, I'm going to type in 32 times 0.25 equals, and I get the number 8, which means that 8 of these guests are going to be penguins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of these question marks represent penguins. We don't know what the other things are necessarily yet, but we know that 8 of them are penguins. Let's look at our second example, which you're going to solve on your own. We expected 90 guests, but 130% of that estimate came. So again, what you're going to do on your own is you're going to multiply the whole times the percent of the party guests that came to get the number of party guests that came. So you're going to find how many we thought were going to show up, multiply that by the percent as a decimal, and then calculate how many party guests showed up to that party. Go ahead and pause your video, solve the problem, and write down your answer. Come back when you're ready to check your work. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Let's check your work. So in this problem, we know that we had 90 guests. That's one whole group, how many guests we expected. We're going to multiply that by the percent of guests that actually showed up. And this was 130%, more than 100%. So if 100% is 90, I can remember my mental math and use my estimation to know that 100% would be 90. 130% has to be more than 90. So my answer should have a value that's greater than 90. But of course, we know that when we're using the percent equation, we have to write the percent as a decimal. So 130%, 130 parts out of 100, is the same as the decimal 1.3. So I'm taking... There's a 3-headed dog in here, folks. It seems to be barking at the trap door. Just excuse me for one muggle moment and I'll be right back. Baxter, Fluffy. Remember the dog from Harry Potter, Fluffy? He's a little grumpy. He had to go to the vet and he has to have a cone on his head. And since he's a 3-headed dog, that means he's got 3 cones on 3 heads. It's been a rough week here. But he's hanging in there. I've been trying to use all of my magical powers to heal him. So we take the number that we expected, the whole group of 90. We multiply it by the decimal 1.3, representing that 130% of those guests actually showed up or actually came. When I put that in my Muggle calculating machine, 90 times 1.3 is equal to 117. So 117 guests showed up to our party. Now, before I give you your directions for what I want you to write in your comments, I'm going to tell you a little story about my wand that I used from the first example, the very beginning of this video. This wand was made for me by a student, Edgardo, and he was my student in robotics for, I think, 3 years at my last school, studio school. And he actually made me this wand case to specifically fit a wand that I had 3D printed. We 3D printed wands for our robotics team as like a prop. And he actually custom made me this really awesome wand case. And you can tell it says Ollivanders on it. He took some cardboard and scored it so that it was a flat sheet of cardboard so that it would bend and make a circle. And then he made like a little cushion under here and put fabric over it in order to make like a little bed for the wand. So if you're stuck at home and you need a craft to do, this is just one idea of how you can kind of use things that you might have around your house to make a really cool craft. And the next year, all my students would be like, Miss, I'm your favorite, right? No, I'm her favorite. And I'd be like, sorry, guys, Edgardo's my favorite. Because he made me so many cool Harry Potter things. I'll have to show the rest to you in these videos. But I miss you guys, and I truly love you all as much as Edgardo. And that's saying a lot. So in the comments, I want you to write your own question. Make sure to solve it to make sure it makes sense. If we solve a question and the answer is that 11.5 owls went to the party, I want to rewrite your question because I don't think we can bring half an owl to a party. So again, make sure that you solve it and it makes sense before you post it in the comments down below. And then you're going to find a question that a friend has written, solve it, and write your answer. Thank you again for joining me. I miss you all so much. Bye.